Welcome to Tree Talking Time, where we talk all things tree dogs, from the smallest feists to the largest hounds, treating squirrels to bears and everything in between. And from time to time, we might even run a little fast game.
Well, I haven't actually been into this as long as most of them out here. I actually only started running dogs. I got my first dog in 20.
Okay.
And in South Dakota, so we don't have a lot of areas that we can run hounds. It has to be on private ground for lion. You have to be on private ground and outside of what we call the fire protection district. So if you've ever been to South Dakota,
I have not.
basically the Black Hills is all of our mountainous range.
Yeah.
And that's what they consider the fire protection district. It's absolutely littered with lions, but we're not allowed to run them.
Jeez.
So we get to run on private ranches outside and that type of stuff. And I was actually out one day food hunting, is that's the term they use out here.
Mm-hmm.
And because you're not using dogs. And I was following a lion track. Yep, just following a lion track. A lot of these guys, they walk them out, and they're successful out of it. It's pretty cool,
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily my cup of tea no more, but
exactly.
I don't dock it because it's some hard work.
Yeah.
But so I was out doing that, and I ended up on this ranch that some family friends owned. And I was following a cat out there, and they knew I was in the area, and I called them. I said, "Hey, well, this Tom's headed over into your guys' place. Do you mind if I follow it?" And they're like, "Yeah, go ahead. But if you get into something fresh, you let me know. Like, I'll call my guy with the dogs." And I was like, "With the dogs? What do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, we can hunt with hounds over here." It wasn't really a commonly known thing, So I was like, "Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, let's do that." So day in and day out, I was in and out of that place and ended up catching a few tracks. And we got a hold of the guy. Never ran anything, and then he bumped into me one day and seen me on the side of the road. And he's like, "Hey, are you Patrick?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, I'm Tate. I'm the guy that they were going to call to run a lion for you if you caught any tracks." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And we just kind of hit it off from there and hunted the whole 2019 season trying to get something caught. And then we ran a few cats, never got anything in a tree, and ended up in 20. I caught a lion coming through, and it was this crazy cold spell that we had. I've been running game cameras up on the place and all that whatnot. We had this cold weather come through for about a week where it was -10 and below. Jeez. And we went out and we ran for tracks, and 2 days we were out, and there was nothing moving around. And I decided to kick out on a road that was just north of the place on my way home, and I catch a lion track. Nice tracks. But the area we were in, we weren't able to pursue with dogs. It was a special area, and it was just outside of where we were at. So I actually went in, tried to call the cat to me, or at least see where it was headed. So I hiked in, followed him around for a little while, and couldn't get him to do nothing or come to me or nothing like that. So I gave him a break, and I left, and I went out every morning. I would circle that area and see if this cat was still in there. Every morning, there was no tracks leaving. That fourth day, I had a track headed south. And I followed that track out to the next road. Cat's still going south. Followed out to the next road. Cat's still going south. Finally, we got to a spot where we were allowed to dump dogs. And we got in there, let the dogs go, and we chased this cat around for probably 8 hours, what I think it ended up being at about -14.
Jeez.
And ended up, it was a really long day. And we ended up treeing the cat, and it was great, Tom. I ended up harvesting that cat, and made lots of great friends over the whole ordeal. Still really good friends with all of them, and that's kind of where my hounds kicked off from there. There was no doubt I was getting them.
Yep.
Tate turned over to me, and he's like, "Hey, man, this is going to be a whole lot more fun when you get some dogs. And I don't even think it was 8 months later and I had my first hound.
For guys that get bit, it doesn't take much. You go on one
And my wife, she hates it. She puts up with it. She knows, she understands it. I mean, it ain't going away.
Yeah.
I ain't no fly by night, buy a couple dogs and this ain't for me type stuff. It's turned into the rest of the life.
Oh, yeah. What kind of dogs did you end up getting?
So I started out with a grade walker dog.
Okay.
I ended up out in Utah for work, and obviously this is like the mecca of hounds out here. Everybody's got dogs. You drive around, there's dog boxes in the back of every truck out here. And where I was working at, I had an acquaintance that I knew through some side-by-side stuff. And I knew that he'd been out running lions with a friend of his, and I got a hold of him, and I was like, hey, is there any chance that your buddy would have any dogs for sale? And he got me in touch with him, and he actually did. He had this little female. She was a year old. She'd been slightly started, she'd been walked to a few trees and that type of stuff, but was, and that's what I told him. I wanted a dog that had an idea, but when I trained her, I knew that what I was doing was training the dog.
Yeah.
I didn't want to start out with somebody's already broke them.
Yeah.
So I ended up picking her up and hauling her home, and we ran coons all summer long. And I just fed her coon after coon after coon, and she just took to it.
Well, it sounds like you have a pile of coon out there. That's for sure.
Yeah, we're well. Some areas we do, and some areas we don't. But we're pretty fortunate with the areas that we got. And I ended up running her on coon all summer long, and it got towards season, and there was a post on this little red dog that came up for sale. They were a litter of pups, and they were 5 months old out of New Mexico. And I told the wife, I was like, wow, geez, I didn't know if I should get another dog or not, but I said, these pups are just to the point where they could be started this season.
Yeah.
And we talked about it. And I said, all right, I'm going to do it. So ended up buying the dog, and she came over, and I had the worst time with this dog. She was the most timid, shy, most people would have given her away.
Yeah.
But she ended up coming around. I worked her throughout that season, just kind of let her free run with the other dogs, and we were catching a few cats, and we got everybody to a point where they weren't awful, but they had an idea of what was going on, and we were getting stuff done.
There you go.
I had a really good friend that he had some seasoned dogs that were really helping them get them started, and we went from there and hunted every chance we got, and just got them as much experience as they could.
Mm-hmm.
And that little red dog, I ended up sending her out to Idaho with another friend, and she went out there and ran some bear.
Cool. And
did just great. But she came back 10 times the dog. Just the handle she had.
Oh yeah.
She got over the fear of being caught and being handled and all that, and she's really turning into one of my better dogs.
Good.
And I don't know. A lot of guys like to see dogs catching and doing their thing by a year and a half. You always hear, well, this dog's finished it. It's only 2 years old.
Mm-hmm.
They might be. I don't know. I've never, I've only been doing this for a short amount of time, but I gave the dog a chance, and she's actually doing well for me. So I enjoyed that.
The only people that in my opinion, that can make a dog in that short a period of time are people that do not have a job, or their job is to hunt.
Yeah, exactly.
If you have no job, then yes, you can probably do it. But people that have a job, a family, other commitments, and don't hunt day in and day out, they're not going to have a finished dog at 1.5 years, 2 years old.
Yeah, and I hunt a lot. I work a 14 off, 14 on schedule. So when I'm home, I'm generally hunting at least once a day or every other at the minimum.
Yeah.
So they do get out quite often. So like you said, unless you're really putting it to it, I just don't see it, But some dogs do. There's dogs I've seen that are at a very young age so far that are going to make phenomenal dogs.
Yeah.
You know, they're out there. I'm not saying they're not.
Yep. Oh, they definitely are. That's just my opinion that most people, even if you have a phenomenal dog, to call it a finished dog, I think is still.
Oh yeah.
A little much.
Yeah. And so yeah, I got that Walker, and then I've got that. I call her a red bone, but she's actually, I don't even think she's got a whole lot of red bone in her. She comes out of some Meekum stuff out of Utah.
Yeah.
And she's just a red dog, but she does pretty good. She doesn't really fit my pack very well because everything else I got is Walker.
Okay.
But then I got two sisters to that other Walker dog. I've really enjoyed running those guys. And the buddy of mine I ended up becoming pretty good friends with that I got my first hound from, and he's had a few litters out of her dad, and I've just slowly picked them up as I've gone, and
there you go.
They've been coming out this year and doing well. We're trying. So
that's awesome. So you have 4 females then?
Yeah.
Okay. Did that just kind of happen by chance, or are you purposely prefer females over males?
I like the idea of females.
Okay.
I've always had female bird dogs, and I had a male Diesla, and he was kind of wild, and I liked how my females worked in the past. And so I decided I was just going to go with females with hounds. And a lot of people, like, they always ask me, well, you don't have any fights or nothing like that. You know, my dogs kennel all together. I feed them all together. I don't have any issues. I guess they got their little pecking order and they do well with it, and just go from there.
Oh, that's good. Females can be tough. Some can be very, very temperamental and get along, but then other times.
And I got one. She don't put up with a lot, but everybody else knows it, and they leave her alone, and they all do good.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think we've made it this far in, and I haven't had you introduce yourself. So why don't you do that?
I'm Patrick Weimer. I'm Vice President of the South Dakota Houndsmen Association. I don't really know. Been in the hounds for about 3 years now.
Figuring it all out, though, sounds like.
So I've enjoyed my time with it.
So you jumped in head first. You've gotten 4 hounds, and then how did you end up becoming the vice president of the South Dakota Houndsmen Association in such a short amount of time?
Well, I don't really know. The South Dakota Houndsmen Association, it's kind of been a tight-knit group. It's been there for quite a while. A lot of people don't know that there is an association. I get that all the time. I get that from people in South Dakota. They're like, what? We have an association? You know, it was like it was a secret society.
Yeah.
And nothing against any of the guys that were a part of it. You know, that's kind of how houndsmen are. You know, they like to keep to themselves and go from there. And I guess I started talking with people. I was trying to get a part of it when I first got with my dogs, but I couldn't get a hold of nobody, and nobody was around to answer a phone call, or there wasn't anything going on. And, you know, I kind of dug around and ended up getting a hold of their president, who was the president at the time. And I said, hey, what are you guys doing? Is there any meetings? Or is there any type of this stuff? Like, what can we do as houndsmen? And he said, they said we've kind of been disbanded for a little bit. And, everybody kind of went their own way. You know, they were still doing things, but there's very lack of effort, I guess. You know, but stuff like that, it gets hard. You know, there's people have all kinds of lives going on and whatnot. Definitely. But we ended up getting a meeting together and trying to figure out what was going on, and they voted for positions, and I was nominated, and here I am. So didn't have a whole lot of idea what was going on, but it's been working out. We've grown the association a little bit with the board, and we've got a pretty good group of guys that hopefully we'll be able to get some good things going with it. You know, we started this field trials. They had one in the past.
Yeah.
But it wasn't anything of the caliber that it is now. You know, last year we started it, and we jumped in head first on trying to make this thing just awesome. and it really worked out. I think last year, there's a lot of people seen it when we were done and over, and they're like, oh, well, yeah, we definitely should have came out to that.
Yeah.
Everybody else does their banquets and that type of stuff, and they give away all type of stuff. That's what we do at our trial.
Okay.
Our trials is our one big hoorah for the year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, it seemed like you guys had a good turnout last year. I know I saw some pictures of it, and it seemed like you had quite a few dogs.
I think we had upwards of 60 to 70 dogs show up.
Good for your, the first trial coming back after kind of a little hiatus and trying to reboot everything.
So, well, I think the year before there was 8.
Yeah.
So it definitely grew.
Definitely. And you're about to have another one, aren't you?
Yep. We'll have our trials coming up here on May 20th.
Okay.
So
that's awesome. And you guys are just getting that a bunch of stuff donated for, like you said, you give away a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Last year I think everybody went home with something.
That's awesome.
I don't think anybody was unhappy with being there. I don't think everybody seemed to have a great time.
Mm-hmm.
Met a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that they're new into hounds, and they don't necessarily have somebody that might be a mentor or that type of stuff. They got a couple dogs and they're trying to do their thing, but it allows people to meet each other and get out there and just congregate together around the house. Hang out, tell stories, all the stuff we all enjoy to do.
No, I know that even I'd coon hunted for a couple of years when I was in college, and then I moved home, and I still had some dogs, and I almost started kind of losing interest because I didn't have a lot of places to hunt, and just didn't know anybody locally. And then I got told to go to the one coon hunters club, and went up there, met a bunch of those guys, and kind of fell in that club and got involved, and it honestly kind of got me more fired up and started hunting my dog a lot more, and actually opened up some doors to some public ground that I didn't even know was public, ground right around me that I just didn't even know I could be hunting.
And that's in all reality, that's really how you and I met. He showed up at the trials. Mm-hmm. I knew of Cody.
Yeah.
And he hunted with a friend of mine that really got me hell on this, and he shot me a message and said, hey, you want to go hunting? And he brought me out to his coon spot, and we caught some coons and had a great time, and we've been hunting ever since.
Good deal.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's funny, as houndsmen, we tend to kind of keep to ourselves, but it's nice to be able to get out and meet like-minded people and actually get to talk to people. And
oh yeah, exactly. I can only take so long as sitting in the corner at a family function, not being able to talk about dogs.
Yeah. Same thing. I go to a family function, I'm just sitting over here minding my own business, but I go to a coon hunt, and it's talking to everybody.
Yeah, and you get to catch up, see what you've been doing throughout the year, and a pretty good time. I enjoy it at it. Mm-hmm. It's still fun.
Yep. So what's going on with the South Dakota Houndsmen Association now? I mean, you guys, besides the field trials, I know you guys, getting everything rebooted and trying to get everything growing. And so what else are you guys doing?
So we got a few things that we're working towards. There's a few issues with South Dakota on the way that they run with hounds. There's a lot of stuff that we can do, we can't do. There's lots of gray areas and that type of stuff. And we're just kind of trying to round out the rules and hopefully get some more seasons opened up where we're able to pursue cats in other areas and that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, there's a bunch of stipulations with out-of-state houndsmen being able to run coon. So right now you can't have any sort of UKC or anything like that.
Okay.
Come to South Dakota, so we'd like to maybe see that changed here down the road, hopefully sooner than later. And then obviously our lion season, we would like to have some tags allotted towards the houndsmen. We have an area that's just absolutely littered with lions, and we'd like to be able to run them.
Yeah, definitely. Now, as far as your membership goes, what are most guys running? I mean, most guys running lions and bobcats, or most guys coon hunters?
I think it's a good mix of everything. You know, like I said, the way South Dakota's set up, where you got East River and West River. West River is more mountainous, and East River is into the prairie and that type of stuff. So a lot of the guys on the eastern part of the state, they tend to run coons and some bobcat and that type of stuff. And then a lot of us over in the mountainous side, you know, we'll run lions and bobcat and raccoon as well.
Okay.
We tend to slip over to Wyoming a lot, being close to the border, so we run over there. We get a little more freedom.
Gotcha.
Being able to run on that side, and then, but we get some cats harvested in South Dakota every now and then.
Nice.
It's just hard to come by.
Yeah.
So, and that's one reason why, you know, I'd like to see a season open up within the fire protection district, because you know there's guys that don't want to see it changed, but there's guys that don't have the access that those guys have. You know.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough that I've got some places that I'm able to run in South Dakota, and I can run in my own state. I've caught lions in my own state, but there's guys that don't have those connections, and they won't. That, you know, it's just there's tight knit places, and that's just how private land goes. Exactly. You know, they don't let everybody go on, and it's, you know, it used to be a little different, but with modern society and Onyx and all that stuff, everybody's knocking on doors all the time, and you know, that type of stuff kind of tends to turn people away. But I'd like to be able to see the average guy just be able to go up in the hills and be able to work his dogs and be able to catch some lions.
Yeah. No, that'd be great, though. I mean, and that's the importance of being organized and having an association. I know some guys, I'm working here with the state of Pennsylvania, and we're trying to get something together to, you know, there's a small organizations, but we're kind of trying to all get more united in a larger front.
For sure. So, where are you at in Pennsylvania?
I am in the southeast corner.
And what do you guys primarily run out there? Is it just mostly coon? Do you guys have any bobcat or any of that type of stuff?
So where I'm at, it's all coon.
All coon.
Now, if you get further north in the mountains, or even further west, like over there more towards Pittsburgh, you know, you can run some cats. People run them, but not a lot. Most guys that run cats, I would say, they're more coyote hunters than cat hunters. That just switch over to cats when we have like a 3 week
when they're able. Yeah. We've got some Pennsylvania guys that show up over in our area just about every year, and they do pretty dang good on them lions.
Really?
Yeah, they do well. I haven't met them. I've seen them out there. They're a bunch of young guys, and they come out here and get after it. They do a good job.
That's awesome. Like I said, there's not a lot of guys that specifically target bobcats in the state. There's a handful, but just not a ton.
Yeah.
So I would say, as far as houndsmen are concerned, you've got beagles, coonhounds, and coyote hounds are your probably 3 top.
I got you. That beagle stuff looks like it's fun. I've never been around it, but from what I've seen, it looks like it's enjoyable.
The funny thing is I've actually never went rabbit hunting with a pack of beagles.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm surrounded by it, it's honestly more rabbit hunters around here than there are coon hunters, but it's just never happened.
Yeah.
Just the way it's kind of worked out.
Have you ever made a trip out west?
I have not.
You got to get out here.
I know. I need to. I've got enough connections. I could leave here and be gone for a month and hunt all over the place now, but I just got to make it a way that I can afford that.
I get that. If we could all hunt every day, we would.
Oh, exactly. So for everyone listening, you know, there is a Patreon. So if you would like to see me travel the country and hunt, and I will record podcast after podcast after podcast while I do it. So, you know.
Yeah, we'll do a podcast at the tree.
Exactly. So
you on a line with your dogs.
So you know, buy those T-shirts off of W and join my Patreon, and I will travel around a lot more and get some live action coverage.
Heck yeah, that'd be awesome. That's one thing that I've definitely done. Just reaching out to people and making connections, and I got someone almost everywhere I could go hunt with. If I had the time, it'd be great.
Yeah. No, and it's funny how small the world is, and how you probably know somebody that knows somebody.
The crazy thing is like I've ran into a lot of like people that are running the same dogs as me.
Yeah.
On totally different parts of the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've got litter mates, and never even knew it.
Yeah. That's funny.
It's pretty small world in the houndsman community.
It really is.
So we ended up over into Wyoming this last season, and ended up bumping into some guys from Maryland, and just randomly out in the middle of the woods, and we ended up we were running a lion, and they bumped into us, and they were like, "Well, when did you guys get in here? We were just by here." We're like, "Well, we just came in about 6 o'clock. And we just tried working this cat. We got it running, but he got up into the rocks, and dogs got screwed up, and it just wasn't working out. So we pulled our dogs and ended up. They wanted to try to see if they could run it, and we said, "Yeah, go ahead." So they tried jumping on it there. We were actually going to loop around to see if we'd catch up to it, and they were looking to harvest the cat, and we had tags in our pockets, but we really didn't care to take a cat.
Yeah.
But there were some young dogs there, and we all came up with a plan and decided if we get on this line, we'll all make it to the tree together, and
yep,
it'll work out. So we ended up running with him for a little bit. We didn't get the cat caught that day, and ended up the next day I get a phone call, and Matt York, he got a hold of me and said, "Hey man, Are you guys going to be back out there tomorrow?" And I had all kinds of plans. I wasn't able to hunt. Mm-hmm. I said no. I said I probably won't be up there, but I mean, you guys are doing great. You'll probably get something. Yeah. And he said, "Well, would you want to? Is there a chance I can get you to come out?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." He said, "Well, my boy's coming out today." And I said he wasn't there with us yesterday, and he wants to harvest a lion. And I said, "Well, how old is he?" And he said he was 12. And once he said that, dogs were loaded, and I'm on my way.
There you go.
And we ended up running this cat. He ended up getting in there early in the morning. I met up with him, and he caught the track. Same cat we were running the day before. Mm-hmm. And we went across the road, and we got together. Never hunted together other than bumping into each other in the woods. And we came up with a plan. And he let out his good dog, and I let out my good dog. And then we let the rest behind. Mm-hmm. And we ran this cat from 9 o'clock in the morning until about 4.
Okay.
And it was a race. We've had so much snow this year. So when we let the dogs go, they were leaving in 2-3 feet of snow.
Jeez.
But then we were running on south facing slopes that had nothing. Mm-hmm. So it was a struggle for the dogs, going from the snow to the dry and the snow to the dry. Yep. The conditions were changing and all that. And we ended up catching the cat. They put it up in a tree, and something went on, and the cat bailed, and nobody caught it. And we get down there, and dogs are still treed, cat's nowhere to be seen. And we're like, what the heck? So me and Matt, we come up with a plan. We tie the dogs up, let everybody sit there, and me and him just made a huge loop. I hit everything that was snow. I didn't walk into any dry, nothing like that. Just trying to find that track.
Yeah.
And eventually I ended up coming across the track and figured out where that cat, he jumped from the tree off into the dry patch, and then skirted up the ridge and walked that ridge line out. So we came back, and Matt got his drifter dog, and I got my door dog, that walker female of mine. And we headed up the ridge, and kind of knew where the cat had been. It was all dry ground, and we just walked them up there, and they struck that track, and on we went again. And we let them get good and started. And once they were really opening up, we had the cat jumped. We went back about another 300 yards, untied everybody from the tree, and the race was on with all them. And we ran it for probably another 3 hours till we got it finally treed. And we were able to get his boy in there and harvest a really nice tom for him. It was really great.
That's awesome. I saw pictures of that. He's posted pictures of that quite a bit.
Yeah. So and that's the type of stuff that I enjoy doing. You know, I was that guy. Somebody picked me up off the side of the road. They worked their butt off for me to harvest a great lion, and I enjoy doing that for people because I know that feeling.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a lot of the joy that I get out of it. You know, I enjoy bringing people to the trees and people that have never seen a lion and, you know, never even been behind hounds or whatever. And I always try to make sure that they're getting like the real experience, you know.
Yeah.
They're getting to run my dogs. I give them a controller. They get to follow them. They get to, you know, it's not like, oh, there's a lion in the tree. Let's go to it. You know, they're having to work. They're having to learn, you know. And they really enjoy doing that, you know. And I think I've got a few people to get enough interest in hounds that I think they might have a few here pretty soon, you know.
There you go. No, but it gives people that appreciation and that understanding, and I think that helps a lot.
Oh, it absolutely does. We've got one area that we're allowed to run hounds in. It's the Custer State Park, and it's a draw tag. So you put in for it, and it's generally about 8 to 12 years. I know guys have preference for it, and ended up running in there this year with a fella that, you know, I was supposed to go with another guy, and because they only let 3 tags out a month, and you get 2 weeks to run in there, and then your season's done. Then they allow some boot hunters in, and then another 2 weeks.
Okay.
So we ended up. I was on my way home from work. I already had all the plan to be in the park and all this. And I got a message over Facebook saying, hey, I drew a park tag and I heard you had some dogs. Would you be interested in helping me out? And I was like, man, I'd love to, but I'm actually going to be in the park for another hound or another hunter right now.
Yeah.
For this same season. I said, if you don't get nothing figured out, I said, you're welcome to come with us. I said, I have to primarily work for this guy at this time because I just committed my time to him.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, yeah, I get that. That's understandable. He said he was going to look around for some other guys and let me know. And so I'm on my way home, getting ready. I get snowed in Rawlings, and I'm stuck there trying to everything I can to get through this snowstorm to get to the park. I worked all night long, drove all day, and was hoping to drop dogs somewhere around 2:00 in the afternoon. So it was quite a day.
Yeah,
but
so.
Yeah, it didn't end up getting there, and the snow that was supposed to be there wasn't there. The guy that had the tag that I was supposed to be with, he didn't like the idea of there not being any snow, and he had some other stuff he still had to get taken care of at home, so he decided he was going to come back when the snowstorm came through. So David, the other guy, he called me and he said, hey man, were you guys in the park today? Did you guys see anything or whatever? You know, he was just kind of fishing around to see what was going on.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, man, I wasn't able to get in there. I said, but the tag that I was supposed to be running with, he's not going to be there. So, I mean, if you don't have anybody, I'd be more than welcome to come out and help you. At least we'd go for a hike and see what the dogs will do and go from there. And he said, that'd be great, you know. So I ended up meeting up with him. He had another houndsman showing up out of Wyoming coming to help. And we went and hiked in the morning, and then he showed up a little later, and we met up with him and ended up working some dogs together. He had a really good pack of dogs too.
Nice.
And all our dogs, I mean, they mashed up together. Everybody was good, and we thought we had something started on the dry ground there for a little bit, and that kind of petered out, and we called her a day and came back the next day, and we were in there for probably 4 days. We had lots of snow, and just wasn't getting nothing moving. The few days that it was snowing, it was continuous snow. So we, if you're going to catch a track, it's going to be within 10, 15 minutes. Otherwise it's gone. And ended up, we left that night and then came back the next morning. I was planning on bringing a snowmobile in, so I was going to stay a little later, getting all my stuff loaded up. Zach ended up hitting the park early, and I get a phone call. He's like, I got a kill. Cat drug a deer across the road last night, which was awesome. Mm-hmm. So I scrapped the whole snowmobile idea and all that whatnot, and loaded the dogs as fast as I could, and away we went. And we got there, got everybody situated, and same situation. Me and Zach never really ran together. We came up with a good plan. He found the track, so it was his lion. We decided to let his 2 good dogs go, and then my 2 good dogs go, and then we would shuffle the puppies in afterwards.
Yeah.
And we ended up letting them go. Dogs picked this cat up the ridge nice and slow. Ended up where it looked like they may have had it bait up on the rock, or it did something up there, and dogs got screwed up, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. There's dogs everywhere, and it was kind of a mess. And we ended up taking dogs back down to the truck, trying to start it over, and we got dogs going on it, but it just wasn't working out.
Yeah.
So we pulled dogs back, made a big circle, and as they're looking for that, we catch another track coming through. Well, the cat we were running, we figured to be a female. So after the long week, we figured we'd run her and see what happens, and at least we get to see a cat in the tree.
Yeah, definitely.
And ends up this other cat looped around with all the commotion and made its way to that kill that female had. And we could tell it was a different track.
Yeah.
And I was out catching dogs and getting everybody recouped and back to where we needed to be. And Zach called me and he said, "Hey man, we got a track." And he's like, "What, do you want me to wait, or do you want what do we do?" And I said, "Run it. Get the dogs going."
Yeah.
And so he gets everybody going, and they get on it, and I think they took it close to 3 to 4 miles, and ended up treeing it.
Nice.
And it ended up being a really great cat. I think it was the biggest out of that season so far. But it was another experience that, the guy that we were hunting with, he had no idea about him.
Yeah.
He's never been around them. He has killed lions before. He killed a lion a few years prior, but he was just calling it in, with the boot hunter type style. And so he's been around the cat. What's that?
Is that like a predator call?
Yeah, a lot of guys will call them in or use a distress call, or a lot of guys like to walk them out, or they'll sit on a kill.
Okay.
And he was successful with that, but he'd never been around the hounds, and he really wanted to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy was out every day with us. He was hiking. He was all over the place. Didn't have no quit. So it was a great experience for us because we had somebody that was actively participating in it. Sometimes you get guys that just expect you to go and catch you a lion, and here it is, and thanks, see you later. But he ended up becoming a good friend, and so did Zach, and we all still chat together, and hopefully we'll be running some more lions this next season.
Awesome. Now you mentioned you thought they got them bait up in some rocks and stuff. What's your country look like out there? Do you have a lot of bluffs? Do you have a lot of trees? I mean,
so South Dakota can be a little bit of everything, and we got cats in a lot of it. The Black Hills is primarily pine trees.
Okay.
We've got granite rock and that type of stuff. There's big cliff edges, that type of stuff. It's not what people depict South Dakota to be. People think South Dakota, they think like Nebraska and cornfields and all of that, and it's not. We've got some pretty rough country up in here.
Okay.
And then we've got some badland type country, and then out on the prairie. And there's cats in primarily all of it. So we've actually, with South Dakota, and I'm no biologist, so this is all my own personal opinion, but we the way we're set up, we're centrally located in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
and about as central as you can get. We are the center of the nation, and our cats tend to spread out a lot.
Yeah.
We've got cats that they've traced all the way up. I believe it was up into New Hampshire, or no, it's Connecticut. It's probably 10, 15 years ago.
Jeez.
Where a cat that they have DNA off of, they caught DNA off of it in South Dakota. I believe they caught another sample in Michigan, and then they caught it where it had been hit by a car in Connecticut.
Jeez.
So our cats travel.
Yeah.
You know, we're such a small area to have the density of lions that we have. That, like this, all the subadult males just tend to get pushed out, and they just wander. You know, and they've ended up in all kinds of places.
Obviously, if you're ending up in Connecticut.
Yeah, exactly, and that's just one that they followed.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got to think about all the cats that they don't know where they're at.
Yeah.
You know, so it's I always joke that we just feed the nation with lions.
There you go.
So if you're
cool.
seeing cats down in Iowa and Nebraska and Mississippi and Missouri and that type of stuff, I guarantee they came from South Dakota. Or at least passed through.
Yeah. All right. Now I want to hear about Connery.
All right. Yeah. So that's kind of my own little thing. I don't know where it's going to land or what it's going to do. I build holsters.
Okay.
I got laid off back in 2019 or in 2020, and I just purchased a new gun, and I wasn't able to find a holster for it, and I kind of was bored more than anything, and I was like, well, I Googled how to build these kydex holsters, and I spent my time figuring out how to do it, and I made dozens of them until I was like, oh, this is actually something I could do.
Yeah.
And I kind of did that on the side while I was waiting for work to come back, and started doing that. And then I went back to work, and it kind of petered off. And then I started building harnesses.
Okay.
All my own personal use. But
yeah.
I guess people started seeing them, and they're like, well, where'd you get that? And I said, well, I made it. and I'd make a few for some people here and there. And I guess I'm trying to get some supply built up where I'll be able to sell a little bit of them online. I've already sent a few out to some houndsmen out in Montana, and a couple of my local guys run them, and I've been running mine for 3 years now, and just trying to do something to fill my time more than anything.
Yeah. No, the one picture that I saw of that 200, that Alpha 200 holster looks pretty good. I like it.
Yeah. That's the main design that I'm working with.
Okay.
I'd like to be able to do guns with people, but it gets hard because I have to have the gun in person.
Okay.
But having that Garmin right there on your chest, I run mine like that, and I really like how it feels and fits, and I don't ever have any issues with it falling out, and I'm not struggling with ropes or lanyards or anything like that, and it stays close to my chest where it stays warm, and everything seems to work out with it so far.
Nice. Good deal.
But it's funny if you've seen that, the Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Hounds. Well, I don't know if I have that one on there yet. I'll have to. I'll shoot you some messages.
I saw you had Derek do that, didn't you?
And that just came from being at work. I was working nights, driving around in my forklift, and I drew up this just absolutely horrendous sketch. I sent it to Derek, and I said, what can you do with this? And he sent me something back that was just awesome.
Yeah.
And he used my dogs in it, and it worked out really well. And we've done some different renditions where, I've got a bear, a coon, a lion, bobcat, and a gray fox right now.
Yeah.
So, and I've got some stuff coming with it. It's been slow in the process of being back and forth with work, but hopefully we'll have some merchandise, I guess you could say, here within a short time.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I've been enjoying it. It gives me something to do in my off time.
Yeah.
So But it tends to get pretty busy with running dogs and work and that.
Oh, I know. Especially for all the traveling you got to do for work. So.
Yeah. So primarily, I'm out in Utah. I've been out here for 2 years now.
Okay.
So generally in the same location, just move around within a 8-mile radius, drilling natural gas wells.
Gotcha.
But it gives me a lot of time that I'm able to hunt when I'm home and work my dogs, and so it works out.
That's awesome. Not a great schedule, but not a horrible one, especially for a houndsman.
I don't think I could do anything else.
Yeah.
I've tried the regular 9 to 5, and I go crazy. If I don't have my 14 days off, I don't think I could do it.
That's definitely nice. That's about all I got for tonight. Unless you got something else.
I don't know.
Any more stories that you want to tell?
Oh, I could probably find some. Trying to think. I don't know if I got any that are podcast worthy.
Well, we'll have to just save them for the next time then.
Yeah. We'll have to get Cody on here.
Yeah.
He's got more stories than what you think.
I heard he's got a lot of porcupine stories, or at least a couple.
Porcupine. He's definitely played with some porcupines. But hey, if you're not hunting porcupines, you ain't hunting.
Well, I'm lucky I ain't got any, so I'm sure I would have. I'd have some stories if I did.
They ain't trashy. They're just gamey.
Yeah.
That's what I like to say. Yeah, we got porcupines and skunks out here, and the dogs love them.
I've got skunks. Luckily, knock on wood, it's been a little while, but
yeah.
Got them. I just don't. If I lived a little further north, I'd be in the Porkies, but just luckily, they're not quite down this far.
Yeah. Well, right on.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time and talking to me.
Yeah, no problem. We'll have to catch up again.
Yeah, definitely. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Tree Talking Media. And until next time, keep them talking in the timber.